Hi everybody, my name is Fiona Longmuir and I am the author of Looking for Emily. Looking for Emily is a fun, cosy mystery about finding friends in unlikely places and learning to be the hero of your own story. When Lily moves to the sleepy seaside town of Edge, she is sure that nothing exciting is ever going to happen to her again. But when she stumbles on a museum hidden in the middle of town, she realises that even sleepy seaside towns have their secrets. Lily's insistence that she didn't know who Emily was only made Sam more curious, and eventually, sensing that resisting was pointless, she told Sam that she'd show her. That Saturday, Sam knocked on Lily's door. It was 8 in the morning. Lily did not appreciate it one bit, but Sam smoothed things over by producing 2 enormous pain au chocolat from her coat pockets. Lily bit into hers, still warm from the oven, and chocolate oozed thickly into her mouth. It was delicious. It was one of those autumn days where the sun barely drags itself above the horizon, skimming the rooftops of the town and stretching the shadows as thin and sharp as needles. Winding her way back through the streets with Sam, Lily wasn't sure she'd be able to find the door to the museum again. In fact, she started to wonder if she'd made it all up somehow. The whole thing was bizarre. It made more sense for it not to be there. And yet, as the two rounded a corner, there it was. A green door in a white house, sitting inconspicuously between 2 other identical houses. Lily wondered how on earth she'd spotted it in the first place. In fact, Sam barged straight past it first, chattering away, and it took her a few steps to notice that Lily was no longer beside her. She looked from Lily to the door and back again. This is it? All that mystery just to show me someone's house? It's not a house, said Lily, pushing the door open. I don't really know what it is. Sam's eyes lit up as the spiral staircase came into view. She turned a thrilled smile on Lily and squeezed her hand excitedly before taking the stairs 2 at a time. There were a few moments of silence, and then the sound of the bell floated down to Lily. She bit her lip to stop a spreading grin and followed Sam up. Sam was standing by the door, tracing the name of the museum with her fingertips. What is this place? I have no idea, but come and see. You're not going to believe it. Lily passed Sam and pushed the door to the first room open. The hush of the museum and the quiet heaviness of the air stole the breath from her lungs again. Wow. Sam's voice dropped to a whisper. She drew close to the wall, her nose stopping inches from the glass covering the apple pie recipe. Her eyes travelled the length of the room. I think it takes up 2 houses. At least, said Lily. It's amazing. What's in the next room? I don't know. I haven't even looked at everything in this room yet. You haven't been here before then? No way. I didn't even know this existed. How did you find it? I don't really know. I just sort of did. What made you lie to your mum about Emily? I don't really know that either. It felt like the kind of thing a grown-up might not understand. I don't think I understand. Me neither. But I love it. Me too. Lily leaned in close to an exhibit, trying to hide the smile on her face. They had a secret. Despite her best efforts, that felt good. There seemed to be no pattern to the exhibits, other than that they were all small, they were all unremarkable, and they had all belonged to Emily. Well, more or less. Lily giggled at the label in front of her. A lipstick, stolen from Caitlin. Another, a little further down, read a pencil, loaned by Tony Ross. Sam was bent over, examining a delicate pressed flower. It was paper thin, the colour almost washed away by time and sunlight. Her fingerprints stood out against the dirt on the glass. I know these flowers, murmured Sam. They grow in the cracks around the rocks. She must have been from around here. Yeah, thanks, genius. I'd guessed that. Sam nudged Lily in the ribs affectionately, not taking her eyes off the flower. Her face split into a beaming grin. It's a mystery. A real full-blown mystery like in the movies. I know. What is all this stuff doing here? I have no idea. Believe me, if anyone from Edge had done anything interesting enough to deserve a museum, I'd know about it. The only really interesting people we had were pirates, and they've got a museum of their own already. I don't think she was a pirate. That's not the feeling I'm getting. Everything here is so ordinary, finished Sam. But why would an ordinary girl have a museum? Lily made for the door on the other side of the room. Come on, let's go and see what's downstairs. The two girls followed the gold arrow at the far end of the room, painfully conscious of their footsteps echoing on the old staircase. It was even darker down here, and as they approached the bottom of the stairs, they gasped in unison. Light spilled from an assortment of bulbs, as soft and yellow as candlelight. They were strung at different heights throughout the room, interspersed with hanging droplets of mirrored glass, which caught the light and spun it in the air. At the end of the room, just visible in the dancing light, was another arrow. I can't decide if it's wonderful or if it's creepy. Me neither. Goosebumps rose on Lily's arms. She rubbed them away and walked towards the exhibits. Small, everyday items, painstakingly labelled, just like on the floor above. She stopped in front of a copy of James and the Giant Peach, fuzzy with dust. Below, a label. Emily's favourite. Lily reached towards it. Sam slapped her fingers away. Were you raised in a barn? You can't touch things in a museum. I'll be careful. I just want to look. Why? A book can tell you a lot about a person. Sam folded her arms, but stepped out of Lily's way. Lily took the book in her hands and gently brushed the dust from the cover. It had clearly been well loved. The cover was barely hanging on, and as she turned it in her hands, Lily noticed that whoever had been reading it hadn't finished. The edge of a bookmark was just visible above the pages. She gingerly edged it out, careful to keep a finger holding the place where it had been, just in case Emily ever wanted to come back to it. Her face flashed with triumph. She waved the bookmark at Sam. Look, I told you. The bookmark was a small piece of card with a gold star and the name Emily McRae printed on it. Now we've got a full name to go on. Sam took it from her, a slow smile dawning on her face. Even better, it's a clue. I know what this is, and I know exactly where we have to go. Where? Sam slipped the bookmark back into the book and returned it carefully to its place. She pulled an identical card from her own pocket. To the place where all the mysteries live.